And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review. This is Breshant from Asari. He is completely free to play. He's been playing for a little over a year, and he's doing the best that he can. Now, playing for a little over a year at 400, that's a pretty decent climb, but I do believe that you can get higher. There are specific tunes that are going to help you. They're what I call alts or alternatives. They're the individuals who you should gear regardless, and once you have them, you're able to throw them in for when the meta changes. You can kind of roll with the punches, so to speak. Now, Breshant wants me to go over heroic AAT tank teams, arena, and ships. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to go to arena, and we're going to talk about those alts I was just talking about. All right, so the arena team that you have is great. You've got Biggs, Wedge, Turret, and Baze. Those are all four amazing. And you've got Ezra, who is your most powerful character in your arena team right now. And he is a free-to-play dream. He's like Biggs, Darklighter. They both call assists, and so that's pretty exciting. But there are a few characters in here that I'm going to make suggestions to you on. A good alternative is going to be Darth Nihilus. Of course, he is really overpowered, and I noticed that you have some just basic, really cheap chintzy mods on him, and you don't even have his abilities leveled up, especially Annihilate, which is his most important. And you have him to Gear 8. Gear 8 is not bad. However, he is an absolute clutch character. He's going to help you with Galactic War, Arena, and when the dark side battles or territory battles coming up in the sometime future, he's definitely one of those characters you want to get. And you took the time as free to play to slowly grind out shards out of the store, so that way you could get him up to 7 stars. That takes forever. If you're going to do all of that, you need to, if you're going to get him to 7 stars, use the bad boy. So you're going to want to continue to get him higher than gear level 8. Now, this kind of surprised me. I noticed you have a 5-star R2-D2, and my guess is you're thinking, well, he's only 5 stars. I can't use him in the heroic AAT, so phooey on him. I'm just going to wait till I can get him to 7 stars until I can use him. Big mistake. First off, you're free to play, and so that means it's going to take you forever to get him geared up, a few months probably. You could probably get a couple of characters geared up simultaneously at that time frame, but you definitely want him for arena, and when you get the 6th and the 7th star, he will already be geared up, and he'll be ready to be plugged and play with. You don't want to have to deal with the gearing once you get 7 stars. You'll want to take him on a test run in the raids, so start on him now. He's extremely viable at 5 stars, even in arena. I would definitely highly recommend getting this bad boy maxed out. Don't even worry about his Zetas for right now. Just gear him up as high and as fast as you can. He's one of the top 10 characters in the game right now. Surprise number 2, you have him at 5 stars, level 1. Again, I'm guessing you're thinking, well, I can't do the Grand Imperial Maneuver, and I can't do this and that with him in the raids, and so I'm just going to go ahead and set him. He's one of the top 5 characters in the game, if not top 10. He's like R2-D2. The two of them are clutch. If you look in the meta, they're taking the top characters and just jamming them all together in a team, giving them a lot of speed and gearing them up. Like, there's not a whole lot of strategy right now in the teams that are being composed, but you have Turret and Baze. If you put, Thrawn on that team as a with a Rex lead and Darth Nihilus, or R2-D2 with Darth Nihilus, or R2-D2 and Thrawn, that team is a top 100 team. You're going to climb hundreds of places and get into the top 100 or top 50 potentially, even as free to play, but you've got to have these characters that have specific abilities. Thrawn and R2-D2 leveled up will also help you in the Galactic War significantly, especially when you hit those crazy nodes where you're like, what? They're like 10 levels ahead of me. There's no way I can get this. He is going to be the one. So these are what I call clutch characters. Thrawn, Darth Nihilus, R2-D2. They're 3 of the top 10 best characters in the game. You have them, so level them up now. So now that we've talked about your arena team and how you can get substitutions for the team you're currently looking at, where you could replace Biggs and Wedge and even Ezra with some of these other clutch players such as Rex, R2-D2, Thrawn, Darth Nihilus. There's a bunch of really great substitutions to really make your arena team pop. Let's take a look at your ships. Now, in ships, you're doing far better. You're running with Executrix or Executrix, however you want to say it. And yes, that is an excellent ship, capital ship to run. You are running Biggs and Umbaran Starfighter, and that is an excellent idea. I would definitely highly recommend you running the 2 of those. You're even running TIE Advanced, and so that is really, really good. There is a couple of ships that I would sub in. So when I look at your ships, I notice, you're wanting to use Umbaran and Biggs, Imperial TIE Fighter, or the TIE Advanced, and those are great ships. But Scimitar and Slave One work really well as backups, coming in after everybody's been target locked and spread, and then also creating a little bit of longevity. After Biggs dies, Scimitar can come in, replace him, and let everybody then target Umbaran. It basically forces them to work through 2 tanks before they can start taking out your attack dealers. So in your backup, I would have Scimitar, Slave One, and then I would probably throw in, it could either be in your backup, it could either be Ghost, which is a pretty high level ship for you because you do have your Phoenix pretty high, or you could put in Wedge, who's another high ship. Those are your 2 highest ships in power, and both are great attackers to come in kind of at the end. As far as your main lineup with Executrix, you're going to use Umbaran like you have been, Biggs like you have been, the TIE Advanced like you have been, Imperial TIE Fighter, and then you're going to use the Phantom. I know a lot of people that do not understand fully what this thing is capable of, but you have Ezra really high. This is why the Phantom is really high, because the higher these characters go. And I know you're going to work on your Phoenix more, and so because you're working on your Phoenix more and getting them higher, the ship's only going to get stronger. But this has an awesome target lock that can get target lock on up to 2 ships, so it works really well in your target lock team, in your primary lineup. That way you're going to have TIE Advanced target locking, the Phantom target locking up to 2, your Imperial TIE Fighter target locking, Biggs target locking, Umbaran target locking on a special, and dispelling all these target locked fools, man. So definitely this is an excellent ship. And because you're using Phantom 2 in your primary lineup, that would almost lead credence to having your Ghost in the backup like I had mentioned in the very last slot, so that way you'll have a little bit of that Rebel synergy coming in. I wouldn't put them both in your primary lineup, because I really think that the other ships are going to work a little bit better. But I think the Scimitar and Slave One would do you better in the backup. If you feel like you are doing better with Scimitar in the main initial lineup, then you could always swap Phantoms and Scimitar's positions, and then have the Scimitar in first and the Phantom come in as a backup. But again, try what I'm suggesting and see how far it goes. All right, we've talked about your ship's fleet arena and how to kind of trick this ship arena out, and how to do your basic arena, and some of the alternate characters that are going to be clutch that you really need to focus on. Now we're going to go into the heroic AAT, and you're already talking about, well, what characters should I use? This is really difficult as a free to play. Who do I have? What can I do? So let's go ahead and get right into there. We're going to go phase 4, phase 3, phase 2, and then phase 1. That's how we're going to go. We're going to go in reverse. So the first phase that we're going to talk about for heroic AAT is going to be the Rebels. Really the best lineup that you have for that is going to be a Wedge lead for the speed and the health regeneration. Of course, you've got Biggs there with him, Chirrut, who's going to be great. You have a 7-star Old Ben. You're going to need a tank, so I would definitely put tank in there. And then Hera. Hera's an excellent character in this particular lineup, and the reason for that is all the synergy with Rebels. She hits decently hard, and she can bring your characters when they're dying back to life. So as you're going through, if you do lose one of your characters because you're free to play and they aren't as high geared as you would like them to be, when something dies, you're able to bring them back to life to get just a little bit more damage out of them. So that would be the phase 4. Let's go into phase 3. For phase 3, there's a couple of different variants you can do, but I would actually recommend your Tebow lead. And the reason for Tebow lead, now you're going to have to, put a little bit of work into your Tebow because you've kind of only got him, part of the way there. But a Tebow lead can really work well with Emperor Palpatine. There's a couple of combos you can use with him as a primary leader or as just in there. But you've got your leadership at 7 and his stealth takedown at 7, so that's good. I see you understand the basics of turn meter reduction, but definitely put a little bit of work into Tebow. Then, of course, we work into Emperor Palpatine, and he is going to be the individual who's going to do the majority of the damage. Now, the first time you run this team, especially your team, you may only get 50,000, 100,000. You may see, wow, this doesn't really seem like a very good team, and what I'm building you is going to be kind of a chop shop. build, but we have to work with what you have, and it's going to progress you towards a future team that a lot of people use. And so Emperor Palpatine, again, you're going to want to be able to build him up to be your damage dealer, primary damage dealer, which means you want as much offense on him as possible. You probably can't farm offense mods yet anyway, but you can buy them occasionally from credits in the store when they pop up. You can also get the very best 2-dot offense mods. You might find a few through farming. Remember that if you need to, you can use the health mods. You can farm them. Just get 5-dot health mods on him and just pick the primary stats that are most important for you. And after you get the stats that are most important, we're talking about some protection on him with the circle, some potency on the cross, and I would probably just do an offense triangle. That's going to be the best with a speed arrow. That'll probably be the best you can get, and you're going to have to farm the mods until you find those primary stats. Let's go ahead and move on to the rest of this team. Now, when looking at your tanks on who we can place in with Tebow, Emperor Palpatine, of course, one stands out, and that's Stormtrooper Han. He's one of those in-game characters a lot of people use in Phase 3 of the Heroic AAT or even the AAT. And then a couple other characters that kind of stand out that you might be able to use is potentially Chopper. Now, I know that Chopper's not technically a tank, but Chopper would be a really great character who acts a tiny bit like a tank, just in that he can taunt, and he's considered a support, but with his taunt ability and his ability to kind of absorb stuff, plus he can regenerate his own health and protection. This is definitely one of those characters you could stick in for now, and since Phoenix is one of your higher leveled characters, this could be a fill-in. In addition, you could also use Zeb. Again, he's not a taunting tank, but he is a non-taunting tank that could help. He brings in some cool things such as the daze and or stagger, and so he's going to help you with in Phase 3 with the main tank, with the main B1 battle droid. As far as Phase 2 goes, I know Phase 3 is going to be a bit of a mess for a little while with your Tebow, Emperor Palpatine, and a few tanks like Zeb, Chopper, and Stormtrooper Han. But in Phase 2, you got actually a decent start for kind of a Sith team. I know a lot of people, actually I don't know anyone that talks about Sith teams in Phase 2. I've never seen them on any of the things, but I've always recommended the Sith for Phase 2 for certain people who only have certain characters developed in for you. Your Sith are good, so it's a Phase 2 team. What you would run is Darth Vader as a lead to get all of those dots put up over the tank. And of course, with Darth Vader, if you're going to make him the leader, you're going to want to raise his leadership ability all the way up. And if you are earning those Zeta mats slowly over time, and you can get one of these abilities to Zeta, this is definitely one of a really great Zeta, because once the dots go up, they stay up. So this is going to be important. But Darth Vader is just a really good lead for Phase 2. Also, you have Darth Maul and Darth Nihilus. Of course, you were able to get both of them to 7 stars, so they would work really, really well in this team. And then you also could add TIE Fighter Pilot. The TIE Fighter Pilot is going to work really, really well in this team with the AoE debuff. And then you can add a 5th character, probably another tank or somebody who's tanky, kind of like Darth Vader lead, that you're going to be able to bring in here and just do damage. You really want someone who can do debuffs and AoE damage. So if you noticed all the ones I suggested, Darth Vader does AoE damage, Darth Maul does AoE damage, Darth Nihilus does AoE damage. And the last individual you can use is Boba Fett. Boba Fett and Darth Vader are a match made in heaven for Phase 2. Really, Darth Vader sets them up and Boba Fett knocks them down. It's pretty awesome. So that is an alternative to a resistance team or a droid team or something that you might not have. And then for the last team, which is Phase 1, I would highly recommend going ahead and just using Jedi for now, because you're completely free to play, and for what you have left, you really only have Jedi left. Now, you've got the top 6, which I'd recommend. Ezra, you're of course potentially going to be using possibly in your Rebel squad, but if not, then I would use him in your Jedi squad. You've got Old Ben as a tank, Kanan as a tank, Qui-Gon as a leader, Ezra as a damage dealer, and Qui-Gon as a damage dealer, and Lumi as a damage dealer healer. So that would be the 5 that I would bring into Phase 1. So, Breshant, I know it's very difficult. It's free to play. You've been playing for, a decent amount of time, and you've got a good amount of development. But for HAAT, Jedis should be probably your number one team for Phase 1. Your Sith modified team for Phase 2. Your Tebow Emperor Palpatine team for Phase 3, and then a Rebels team for Phase 4. You're not going to get a ton of damage off of any one of these teams, but it gives you a start. It gives you focus, and it helps direct you and guide you with ships. You're really close on what you should be doing, but maybe do a few tweaks like I suggested. And then for arena and just in the game general, I would highly recommend you working on some of those clutch characters such as Rex, Darth Nihilus, and then specifically R2-D2 and Thrawn. Get them geared up as fast as possible and their abilities up. Those should be your top 2 priorities. Nobody else matters in this game until those 2 guys are leveled up. They're really that important. Thanks for letting me take a look at your roster. If anyone has any suggestions from what they've seen on how they can tweak these different teams or arena, leave them in the comments down below. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.